to do earlier. Oh, there we go. Got it? Because of the delay, so.
You guys okay? Probably not. Greg, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
So
Yeah, me.
if we're all set, we'll call the August 6th recal / permanent building committee meeting to order. Should run quickly through the agenda for tonight. Call to order. We're gonna have public comment, approval of minutes, invoice approvals. We'll have an update on budget and schedule from Turner and Townsend Harry. A design update on the design development as well as building and site changes from BH+A. Got an open item for the Council on Aging, open design changes, and some other updates on the operational financial plan and drawing review. With that, call the meeting to order and take a roll call vote. Nancy Toomey.
Here.
Ari Greenberg,
Present.
Nancy Zimlak,
Here.
John Coop.
Yes.
Kirk McCormick couldn't make it tonight. He reached out to me ahead of time. Mike Mazzaro.
Here.
Greg Stepler,
Here.
Mark Doxer.
Here.
Get everyone? So, okay. Moving on to public comment. If there's any public comment. Marilyn?
I had a couple of questions, but I think Karen did this last time. I don't know if you want me to ask them now, sort of out of context, or as they come up.
I think in order to try and facilitate the meeting, let's take the public comments now.
Okay.
So we can keep things, we got a lot to cover tonight,
And
so.
I understand,
Yeah.
it's your choice.
Yeah.
It's really just so I understand, I'm not criticizing, suggesting, I'm just trying to understand in terms of capacity. I look at every time I get a chance, I look at other facilities, and I looked at Randolph, which BH+A did, and I saw, for example, that they had what looks like on their floor plan about 1,000 square feet of storage that's all lined up against the gym. And I'm just wondering, because we don't have anything that even begins to approximate that, I'm wondering if we have the capacity that we need. I'm not saying we don't, I'm seeing great differences.
That's not senior center or community center, that's youth sports storage. It's all access from the outside, and it's, so baseball and football and Pop Warner and all that can have access.
Okay,
And you have 2 storage rooms inside the gym, but not the outdoor storage.
okay, that explains it. Similar question for the multipurpose room. We're envisioning using it obviously for dining, and it's got capacity for 125 people. And the goal I know is to try to have it so that staff doesn't have to be tearing down and setting up and tearing down. But for some things like movies, that will take down the tables. Is there enough room in those storage places to hold all the tables?
Yes.
Yes, okay, good. And again, this is just to reassure myself as I look at these drawings. And on the sort of flip side, if it is set up for movies, I would think it would use far more chairs than are used for dining. Do we have a place for all those chairs to be stored?
There's a 200 square foot storage room for chairs and tables.
So it's enough for all the extra stuff? Excellent. And then beyond that, but similar, and I know there's no way to answer this, but I just am curious about the thought process. We've got basically 2 rooms that are program, flex, exercise stuff. The 2 rooms on the first floor, each that about 1,000 square feet. And well, this will come up later as we get into some of the other things in the spreadsheet, but if those are set up for moving body activities, dancing, exercise, balance, whatever, do we have a sense of what the capacity is of how many people that will accommodate, I get questions from people, you know, oh, we're so squished here, how's it gonna be? I'd like to be able to answer the question. We know about how many people, you know, on average might be accommodated in those rooms, that kind of activity in general.
Each one of them has a different, so if you're doing extreme yoga and that, you do 50 square foot per person, that would be 20 people in those rooms. Zumba is tighter, you could do 30
Okay,
people in that, and the goal in those rooms is if. And what we do in the other centers is if it gets really big, you go to the gym and the gym's divisible, so you can. Have the curtain come down in the gym and have a Zumba class while people are playing pickleball
right,
or whatever, so.
okay.
Yeah.
Some of them, the question that I've had on that is having the mirrors and things that I understand are planned for one of those rooms.
Yes.
That really helps make good use of the instructors, because they can be running around and people can see them without the whole class spinning around and going nuts, which you wouldn't have if they go to the gym, but, so 20 to 30. And then the same thing, if they got set up with furniture for any of the about 10 different bereavement groups and support groups and book club groups and things that require you sitting down, about how many would that accommodate?
We usually think that there are 25 to 30 people max, and those kinds of groups are usually not quite that large, but they're designed for that size group.
So would there be room for tables for them?
Yeah.
I mean, like, we're
You can
sitting
either
there
have,
at tables.
that many people on tables like this or in
Okay.
the room. Yeah.
All right, that's what I wanted to know. When we get to the kitchen discussion, I have a couple of just reassure me questions, take 2 seconds. So why don't I hold on to those to them?
I'd rather just
All right,
get
okay.
public comment.
One is just, and because I wasn't in the meeting, I don't know, so forgive me if I'm asking things that's obvious to everyone, but just for my own peace of mind. Is the goal with the kitchen to have it, I know it's commercial, is it commercial in the sense that you could prepare meals for 125 people from scratch?
Yes.
Excellent, you're getting all the right answers tonight, Phil.
He's done this before.
Well, I know.
It's twice.
I know, I just haven't heard it.
Yeah.
And what was my other, and has consideration been given to something I see in a lot of other centers, community centers, senior centers, either they lease space to Meals on Wheels in their kitchen to bring in revenue? Is that part of what you're thinking about?
We don't have a separate space for Meals on Wheels. We do often do that, but that wasn't requested, so we don't have that.
Okay,
And the capacity issue, the building's designed to be a shelter, and to be a real shelter, you have to cook food on the site. You can cook for more than 125. It might be pasta, but it's
okay,
a commercial.
but you can do it. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any other public comment?
I do have a quick back to storage. In the exercise rooms, is there gonna be storage for equipment like yoga mats, drumming balls and all of that?
150 square foot storage room in the exercise
In
room.
in each room?
And the art room has one, and the room down below, that's the exercise room. The equipment room doesn't have that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Anyone online, Jenna?
No.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item, the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. I don't know if anyone had any comments on the minutes? If there's no comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Move to approve the minutes from, can I get this? Okay, July 2nd, 2025.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, we'll go to a vote. Nancy Toomey,
Yes.
John Coop,
Yes.
Greg Stepler,
Yes.
Ari Greenberg. Oh, Ari's an associate member, my bad. Mark Doxer,
Yes.
Nancy Zimlap,
Yes.
Pat Tompkins, yes. Motion passes. There he is. Moving on to the next item, invoice approvals. Mark, you can just take us through that?
Absolutely.
Turner Townsend invoice, I'm sorry.
Is the chair right here, all right?
Turner Townsend invoice, for the period of June and July in the amount of $45,465. Another one.
Does anyone have any questions on that? Want to take these in order? Mark?
Quick question, are these based, kind of on time allocated? Is that how the billing comes through on these?
We have a cash flow that we share with the town and it's a lump sum breakdown per task for phases. And individually of those phases, it is broken down by hours. So how many people, yeah, exactly, but design, development, construction, document, all that's broken down, and within those phases, it's broken down by numbers. Hours,
But the contract is a lump sum.
Right, and it's allocated out.
correct.
Well, I'm used. Got it.
Motion to accept the invoice from Turner Townsend Fury dated July 24th, 2025 for $45,465. It says date of the invoice is July 24th, 2025.
The invoice is 23rd, the cover letter is the 24th.
The invoice was dated 23rd.
Okay,
Correct.
sorry. Okay. That's okay, you're right.
Okay. So, any other discussion? Nancy Toomey,
Yes.
Greg Stepler,
Yes.
John Coop,
Yes.
Kirk's not here, Mark Doxer,
Yes.
Nancy Zimlack,
Yes.
Pat Tompkins, yes. Motion passes. Go to
BH plus A, invoice for basic services for the June and July period, $210,000.
I don't have any questions or comments on that invoice?
Make a motion to accept the invoice from Bartman, Hendry and Archetype Inc. for $210,000 dated July 10th, 2025.
Any further discussion? To a vote, Nancy Toomey,
Yes.
Greg Stepler,
Yes.
John Coop,
Yes.
Mark Doxer,
Yes.
Nancy Zimlack,
Yes.
Pat Tompkins, yes. Motion passes. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay.
For now.
Yeah, I'll turn it over to Mark for Turner.
So, budget update, as we showed previously in other meetings, we just go through the highlighted items that we just approved as invoices, so, backwards, first page has, an item 200, the design development phase for the 45,465 invoice number PJIN 004428 for, Turner and Townsend. Proceed down to section 300 in the $210,000 invoice number 27578. Carried for BH plus A. We continue on in section 307. We just highlighted an item, information that we received from BH plus A and their financial folks. The estimate had carried a $5,000 figure for a tree survey and arborist, and has been identified not required for the project. So at this point, we're identifying that, but we'll do a contract amendment at some point and then probably take that figure and put it into the contingency. So the bottom line balance number still stays exactly where we want it to be. So we'll probably provide that next meeting. I will work on it with Joe and provide it for the next meeting. And then as you get down to the bottom line, we are now at 10% of the committed funds. And 1% of invoices approved to date. And the committed balance of two. Questions on the budget?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Mr. Stafford, can you just tell the committee how this is tracking against your expected cash flows?
Yes, so we provided Jane and her staff and Sharon with a cash flow breakdown. And every time we go through the cash flow amounts, we'll carry that on the cash flow. It'll be reflective of that exact amount on the budget as we go through. Any modifications or changes with that will be adjusted as well in a conversation with them. But the invoices go in to Sharon, to Jane, Jenna, and the crew. If any deviations are there, we'll identify what those are, usually on the cover letter. And then that information will go on the budget and be reported at the next meeting.
So how are we tracking to the cash flow?
We like over budget, under budget,
Currently, it's right on budget.
or so we're perfect. Is what
We're
you're saying.
perfect.
Which
I
wouldn't,
didn't want to say that out loud, but we're perfect.
which isn't necessarily on budget, right? That's on, we're tracking.
Yeah.
We're tracking on budget.
We're-
You're
we're
tracking,
correct.
yeah, against what our expected spend is going to be.
Exactly.
I understand. Thank you.
Any other questions on the budget?
No, I don't know if we want to talk a little bit about the preliminary estimate
That is another item.
Okay.
Engagement.
under,
We can take it wherever you.
yeah, no, we'll take it. We'll take it in order, thank you. So, if there's any other questions on the budget, move on to a schedule update.
So scheduling, similar schedule you've seen before, the overall sort of milestone schedule. We're right on schedule as we are the DD cost estimate and reconciliation. The estimate came in on the 17th. We have our estimators getting ready to start in a week or so. We're looking at reconciliation of the estimates by the end of the month. And we'll definitely have a reconciliation ready by the next meeting on the 3rd. We'll talk about it in a minute, but the preliminary numbers have come out and we can certainly address that. And as we move forward with design development, we'll start looking at the dates and times for the preparation of the 60% construction documents, the review period for that and the cost estimate development for that. Right now, it's tracking sort of mid-September to mid-October. Got the PBC meetings in there as well. The adjusted date for October, getting ready for the 100% CDs and get the bid package and get everything shot and ready for a review period for 60% CDs by the middle of November. And then look at bid and award through November and December, and hopefully the general bid is ready by the end of the month and get them by the end of the month and get started in January. Very aggressive schedule, very tight. Think it could be done, but we have to stay right on top of everything. And the design development set, I think, was a terrifically done set to this point. And Joel will talk about that in a minute with the estimates. So staying on this schedule, I think we should be able to achieve it.
You know, sorry, you don't think that construction, anywhere is gonna be a problem? I mean, I was looking at this, there's not a lot of time between when we get the bids back and when we get construction.
I can answer. Yeah, it's done on purpose because the site has a huge amount of clearing and it's a very wet site, so it's pretty efficient to do that. If we have a winter like we had this winter, it's very easy to get your large vehicles in there to get the trees out, clear the site. So we actually chose the schedule to get in there as soon as they could and not start March, April when the site's gonna be as mushy as you not want it to be. So it's to take advantage of the season when that's like.
I see, I
The,
see pros and cons.
yeah, there's definitely pros and cons in the timeframe from, receiving general bids on December 22nd to construction beginning on January 1st.
I think we had a February one.
Yeah, is a little tight. I think that will likely bump out. If you just imagine turning around a contract. Although we usually see, I think we would expect like 30 days from the time of bid award to like mobilize to the site. 30 days is not uncommon. If we're not prepared, to turn a contract quickly. If there's a bid protest, there's all kinds of things that could happen. But I think, 30 days, which is a little more than what's shown here. In Joel's mind, he's thinking more like February 1.
Yeah, okay,
Um,
we can adjust that.
Yeah. But I think that makes sense to get in there, get some site work.
I agree, it was trying to do a contract on what this was.
Yeah.
Any chance of a early bid package for the site package?
Yeah. I don't think so.
We weren't-
Pretty early, we're pushing hard.
The whole project's an early package.
I think that the advantage of the schedule is that it's a pre-qualified GC and the contract is part of the contract document, so they accept the contract as part of the pre-qual and the bidding. So you don't really have to negotiate the contract once the bid's in, it's all ready. The time it takes to get signatures, not to negotiate the contract.
Anyone else, any comments or questions on schedule, Nancy?
I was just curious, and I don't know if this is on the agenda someplace else. But I was just curious what was happening with the Conservation Commission and the CBDC Commission, those two meetings. I know the Conservation Commission had some.
Do we want to just, that, you're gonna cover that in your site?
Oh, okay.
There was a ConsCom meeting 2 weeks ago now?
Yeah.
We'll get to it in Joel's
Okay.
site update.
All right.
All right, I'll do my best to keep us on track, on
Quick
order.
other question, at risk of outing myself for not having reviewed the DD drawings, obviously that review period is out, how do we access that set?
We can
You
send
can
it.
shoot
Was
it
it
in your
was it
email.
in the Bluebeam review? It's not in my email.
I didn't
so
see it.
maybe
I did not see if you could send it.
It's on the lake.
Well, we were gonna review,
Right, pricing and operational first.
there's effectively gonna be two DD sets. There's the DD set that's out now, that's being priced, and then Joel's team is still working on those documents, and we're gonna review, we're gonna call, I know you were referring to it as a conformed DD set. That'll be available in mid-August, so that's a slight,
Yeah, that's a change.
change to the schedule. But we'll talk about that.
So there was no set on the 17th.
7/17, there was a pricing set.
There was a pricing set that went to the estimators.
Did that go to us?
It has not gone out to.
Okay, so I didn't miss.
You didn't miss that. You didn't miss that.
Sorry.
So that was sort of an audible. We decided that we would review, sort of do a technical review of the set that comes out in mid-August instead of the one that came out in mid-July. On schedule, Mark, can you kind of walk the committee through some of the sort of upcoming tasks and some of the things that, I mean, we're moving very fast through the process. I think it makes sense to move at this pace because we want to get out to bid. We want to be in the right time period for bidding. We have a lot of confidence in our designer. We're not asking Joel to design something he's never designed before, where we feel like there's a high risk of going fast. But, we're gonna move pretty quickly over the next months and, we should just talk about some of the things.
Yeah, the
pre-qualification.
pre-qualifications needs
Yeah,
to
when-
happen very soon. There needs to be a sort of a subcommittee pulled together, a couple of people from here, a couple of people in the town, et cetera. Oh, hello.
Yeah, thank you.
There'd be right. So a decision will need to be made to set up that sort of subcommittee to start looking at the pre-qualifications and then getting the RFQs together and getting the advertisement together, so all that in the next, I'd say, month and a half needs to be started. So that should be done definitely before the September meeting, at least the subcommittee, so we can start looking at these things and going. So that's a discussion that Pat and I had. We should start thinking about nominating volunteer people for the people from the committee from the town or the architect, the OPM, and a town person, maybe a committee person. just so we can start that process and get it going and report back to you how it's all come together. So that's gonna happen pretty quickly, so.
So we should anticipate, as a group, things that we need to think about and focus on. A design development set of drawings coming out. Is it August 17th. That we should review and give technical feedback on. I say technical feedback because I think we're at the point where we're giving more technical feedback. This isn't a review about moving rooms. Are we doing a commercial kitchen? It's more about the, sort of a technical review of details and what have you. That'll be coming up, and then we should be prepared to basically be in pre-qualification. If we're bidding in December, we'll need to be pre-qualifying in September. So we'll need to have, I would think at the September meeting, we'll be establishing a pre-qualification committee. Which I believe Peter can chime in, is someone from one member of the OPM, one member of the architect.
Three from the town.
And 3 from the town? I thought it was 2. And that's not necessarily building committee, that's town staff.
Could be.
/ building committee.
Yeah.
Total
of 5 people recommended.
So I would see us establishing that committee and, at the September meeting, and basically, we'll either need to approve of an RFQ at that meeting or empower that committee to approve and issue the RFQ.
Right.
Because that'll need to be out and pre-qualification. I mean, the pre-qualification from the time it's advertised is usually like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then, it should be a pretty straightforward pre-qualification, so it shouldn't take us too long to get through it. But it's just kind of giving everyone, lay of the land of what to be thinking about next. Peter, did I miss anything?
No, you're good.
Okay. Anything else on schedule, Nancy?
Do we need another meeting between, just because you're so far apart, I think that would be advisable. There's a lot that needs to happen in a very tight time frame. So I don't know. Everybody's
Probably.
vacation is troubled. Something to think about.
Yeah, the answer to that is probably, maybe everyone can let that percolate in their brain. And when we get to item 9 on the agenda next meeting, we can talk about it. It probably does make sense to squeeze another one in. August is tough for everyone. But let's table that till we get to that point. Okay? Anything else on schedule? Turn it over to Joel for the design update.
So sort of want to talk about the process where we're at, and as Pat mentioned, there's a preliminary cost estimate. The reason that this process is going on this way is that there's a lot of decisions that need to be made that have to do with the energy systems in the building and with add alternates and with site work, and that can't really be made until you have an estimate to know what the cost of the systems in the building is. And so we had to expedite our current cost estimate so we could do the energy model, which we received on Monday, and that we could do some other analyses for the solar system, solar collectors for the HVAC system. So I'll start with the cost estimate, and then the other concern we had was with all of the changes in foreign trade and other issues going on, we were concerned that the last budget we had done was January 15th. We're now 7 months into a sort of different, we thought the numbers would be more chaotic, but if you go to the, I can do this.
You're in charge.
This is the preliminary estimate, which is our estimate. We don't have Turner Townsend's. We'll get their estimate and we'll put the two together, but we wanted to get ours so that we could, like I said, prepare these other documents. As you can see, the schematic design cost estimate was 21.9. Today we're at 1.3 million less than the schematic design. We're carrying the same construction contingency, we have the same construction contract total, and we're carrying the same owner contingency. So what the budget turned out to be completely different than we had anticipated. The number came down instead of it going up. If the reason that there's sort of part of why that happened is that we did a phase 2 geotechnical exploration of the building site and re-engineered that with a geotechnical engineer so that the foundations no longer have to be on piles. We can do a simple conventional foundation system, and that's a very significant cost savings. In addition, there are 2 items in the cost estimate that get changed every time you do a new estimate. Escalation is going to be reduced because we're not in January, we're now in July, so there's 7 months less of escalation in the budget because that's been put into the basic numbers. And the design contingency has been reduced. In schematic design, you carry 10% contingency because a lot of things are unknown. Design development, you carry 5% because there are fewer things that are unknown. And then when we get to construction documents, you carry no contingency for design. The schematic design, we went through feasibility study and schematic design, so there was a lot of time to work on the drawings. I think that the schematic design drawings were more information in them so that the benefit of the design contingency has been registered in that reduction of the budget, that really the holes that needed to be filled traditionally by a design contingency had been filled in the schematic design drawings. And that accounts for some of the cost reduction. And then 3, we're finding that like the window systems and that are coming from Europe, the tariffs haven't hit them yet. It's not quite clear when, is it September or it's not clear when they're hit. So these numbers don't really reflect a huge impact yet on the tariff. So we like to tell our clients, don't go out and buy the BMW. Let's hold that cost savings until we know a little bit better about the project and the impact of things. So it's all good news. It does potentially put us in position to accept some of the alternates that have been discussed. So those are oh, I don't know whether I have 2. I went the wrong way, sorry.
Okay.
While we're at the cost estimate, I know the PVPC doesn't have pickleball on their agenda, but I just, to get everybody, since we have a unified site, I thought it was good to show these numbers. I did talk to Jane about that and we didn't want to confuse everybody, but pickleball is also running within budget. It's currently about $200,000 below. Now pickleball is from the edge of the parking lot over. Everything that ReCal needs, including the stormwater management, is in the ReCal budget. ReCal's not dependent on this budget, but that is, adding lights is sort of within the target range of that budget. It's a $200,000 to add lights, and adding an additional pickleball court is $53,000. What we are looking to do is that area where the pickleball was somewhat done as a geotechnical analysis, we thought it would be better to go in and actually dig some test pits and get a better view than you can get when you do a 3-inch boring hole in the ground. So that we've contracted and cleared with Ryan at the town engineer to go in and do 3 test pits to see if we can't make the geotechnical work that's related to the pickleball area come down in cost, and then maybe get more of those add alternates into the budget. But both projects are running okay. So this is just the big picture, and it leads us into what some of the design modifications might be. You have it at the far end, that's the pickleball, and the line of demarcation is right here. Pickleball has its own transformer, has its own lights. So it can really stand alone, but this, except for the stormwater management, which the drainage on pickleball goes into the stormwater management for the Recal building. There's not really a major change to the building. This sidewalk's been straightened out, so if you want to get from Recal to pickleball, it's just one straight line. It's pretty cool, from the front door. The one thing that we're doing two things, and it's the other reason that we wanted to do a cost estimate is we're at Concom, we're at Community Planning and Development. Concom meeting was 2 weeks ago. We got some preliminary information on the site. Primarily has to do with the walking path. They'd like to move the walking path inside the buffer zone setback. So the walking path will still be there. It'll be all on grade. We don't need any boardwalk. We'll be on the inside of the buffer zone, and there'll be some extensions being built by Conservation Commission that take us from the yellow line into the wetland areas for educational and nature purposes. There are a few other comments that are not really of major significance, other than they may have spoken too soon on that arborist. They do want us to inventory the trees in the buffer zone. I think we're getting a resolution on that and pushback where we've identified all the 12-inch trees for them, where they are, what they are. They had asked for 6-inch trees, which there are a lot of them. So I think Jane might add to that.
I can speak to that, but yeah, I've spoken with the conservation administrator, Mr. Tyrone, regarding the 6-inch survey. So the surveyors who we hired did not do and won't do 6-inch trees. That's sort of, there's not a difference. It's a little excessive. It's kind of typically the approach these days is to go by the candidate. And but Chuck needs some of that information to put on the DEP permits. So that's why he's. So we had a conversation, and Chuck and potentially somebody from conservation, I don't want to commit his board to anything, may do some of that themselves, and you know, we can go out with them and have some conversation with Activitas about, you know, and Brian Personal, you know, massage that process and get them the information they need for their SDEP permits, but not to add excessive costs to the project, because you can't really get somebody to do it anyway. So I think we're at a good position. Chuck and I had a good conversation. And that's part of what the mitigation is for, that we've been talking about with the conservation, with the land that we're going to put into conservation is for the mitigation of the trees. So we've had that conversation too.
There's one more meeting with Concom coming up. I think it's next Thursday, right?
I think it's the Thursday after. Yeah. So we're backing up with like CONSCOM, CPDC, select board all same week.
CPDC was moved out to the end of August. It's fine with the schedule. The logic was CPDC wants to have a meeting that's just Killam and Recal and not get it cluttered with the other projects that might be coming in. They have a lot of work going on, so I think we're the last week of August. There'll definitely be a second meeting for planning. We won't get through everything in the first meeting, but there's been a lot of work. Having the drawings submitted on the 17th has allowed them to have 6 weeks of review time before the first hearing, so that it gets to all the different departments in town, and we'll have a good complete hearing on the 28th of August as opposed to just introducing them to the project. The main point of change is that the road, Range Road, actually got realigned a little bit for a couple of reasons, but the main reason was originally the survey had just taken the Recal side of Range Road. We didn't do Burbank Arena But as we're extending the road, we realized we need to get the other side of the road surveyed. We want to make some connections from Recal to Burbank Arena here, and we need to survey that for handicap access. So we needed to survey in their property at these points. And in that process, we picked up all of the existing telephone poles happened to be on the far side of the road. So it was determined by the civil engineer that if we move the road down and move the right of way for Range Road down, we can avoid having to relocate the telephone poles, Verizon, Eversource, all of that work, and save some time and save some serious money and aggravation on everybody's part. So when that road moves down, the road gets a little bit closer to our building, and that caused a little bit of a change in the design. The standard for DPW is to have at least 10 feet between the edge of the right of way and the edge of the building. So we've redesigned that corner to make that maybe you can advance it, it's not working for me. Make that corner, so here's a blow up of that corner. You can see we sort of chamfered that end to pull it back from the setback. Actually, it came in conjunction with a meeting that we had with town staff over access control and security systems and the surveillance systems. And we originally had a second means of entrance and egress coming off the parking lot right in the front of the building. When the staff got into that detail, it was determined that they'd like to bring everybody in the front door, even on after hours, have one point of access control. And if we didn't have this secondary entry, we had a 6-foot hallway that could be redesigned. That allowed us to compress the bathrooms. It allowed us to expand the kitchen a little bit and take advantage of that circulation space, which I'll show you at the end of the building. And now the building egress is out straight through here. So you'll see in the design, the basketball gym multi-purpose room has a view corridor at the end that's a little bit more efficient end to the building, and we get this clearance. The other nice thing about losing that entry is that at the end of schematic design, the team does what value engineering with the cost estimator, and the civil engineers pointed out that if we could relocate the electrical room, which was back here, closer to the building, it would be much more efficient for the generator and the transformer. Your utility company pays for the transformer, but from the transformer to the building is secondary wiring, and you pay for that. We've been able to reduce that by 2/3, because you would have had to run all the way around the back of the building to this point in the old scheme. So now you just have to cross the parking lot, and we have an electric room in the front. Fiber can come in at that point, and that's very good for the generator and the emergency, the generator and the transformer, which are in those locations. So there was a confluence of events that happened. And so when everybody says things are happening quickly, well, it's intended to get all of this information out so people can react at planning, DPW, engineering, and impact the design before it's too late. So it's been, I think, very successful. What you see here is that the building is simplified. It's chamfered to follow this right of way. We have the electric room at the end because we got rid of that entry. The entry room is,
Hold on.
Sorry.
Bigger, sorry.
sorry, completely free of the kitchen. So the kitchen gains some area that it lost to the electric room. We have the exit out, straight out of the passage corridor for the gym and the multi-purpose room. And we have the nice bathrooms that are off to the side. Ladies' room got enlarged, so it's a little bit more generous and nice for the women's room, and then there's the men's room. So I do have a blow up of the kitchen, which I'll get to, but that's really the only change that's happened other than the shuffling of rooms at this end of the building, at the design development phase. And it does, none of those changes increase the cost of the project.
So can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
If you don't have that separate entrance, what's the plan for access control? If everyone's coming through the main, let's say it's after hours. So people are gonna come in the main entrance, I'm understanding now. So how do we control access to things other than, I guess, the gym and the large meeting spaces on the right? I was under the impression that we had the ability to cut off the rest of the building.
You could cut off the building here if you wanted to. So you had the same ability to cut off the building if you want with either entry. Because the point of cutoff is this corner. So when you were coming in this way, you still had access to the lobby as a second means of egress out of the building. So we weren't closing it here. We were closing it at this point because you still want to get to the elevator and the stairs after hours.
Yeah, and the intention of staff from an operational standpoint is to always have a staff member in the building that will monitor. So if there is an event, we're renting the gym that night, then there'll be someone at the front desk monitoring the activity and watching people come in and out. And also the other rooms in the building will be locked.
And to your question earlier, that access control is all in the base building cost us. That's not an extra project.
Okay, and maybe just as a quick information point, that kind of access control, is that electronic or is it manual?
Electronic.
Electronic.
Those.
Got it.
So like certain people in certain places, you know.
Certain, got it. Thank you.
I think I need you to advance because we're in the enlargement phase. And we're now looking at the kitchen, so I need to shrink. There you go. Thank you. As a result of the electric room used to bump in here, so this is a revised kitchen design. The kitchen goes all the way to the perimeter wall. We've gotten rid of the exit passageway that used to go as a means of egress from the multi-purpose room. Does not have to go through here any longer. So what that does is it creates a really great function that we have in a lot of senior centers. Not only is it an airlock, which an airlock's beneficial because there's a huge amount of exhaust in the kitchen that you can control and not by having the double door. But it's also a delivery vestibule where Cisco and bakeries and all that like to deliver 5, 6 in the morning. They now have this delivery vestibule where they can make their deliveries, they can place that, and you don't have to have a staff person on site to meet your bakery or your other deliveries that can leave things in the delivery vestibule. Your staff can come in at 7 or 7:30 or 8 and pick that up and take it to the whichever area they need to. Works out really well at a lot of our facilities, gives them flexibility on delivery options. And the access control is a delivery person would have access to a keypad, could open that door, but this door doesn't open. And so you can leave things, pick things up. It's a nice feature.
Didn't you say that vestibule is the egress for the kitchen though?
The kitchen, it could be an egress from the kitchen. The kitchen has an egress here and egress there. That door does not have to swing out from the kitchen.
Rolls to get out of the building.
Yeah. This door goes out that way, this door goes out this way.
At one point, Ari, those two doors weren't there, and that was a egress corridor. And basically at the back of the walk-in cooler was a wall, a hard wall there. Maybe there was a door there.
Yeah, I was just trying to make sure we weren't trying to put a delivery drop down space in the.
Yes, that's not a means of
Right,
egress.
yeah.
Now,
That would be a safety issue.
the other change to the kitchen was we originally had the coffee station here, not for any reason other than that's where all the plumbing happened to be in the wall. And a review with staff and other folks, they requested that the coffee station get moved down here, which is opposite the pass-through window. It's a nice location because it's sort of free of the working kitchen. It puts it really proximate to the pass-through window and the door, so you can get that coffee out to the main room. You can get it to the senior lounge, you can get it to the second floor where there's a coffee counter. So that was the main change. It, in the modification, cleaned up the door and access to the walk-in cooler. The equipment, you can just see it's a little bit neater, cleaner access to the kitchen. This is a working counter that's full of supplies below and racks for pots and pans above the kitchen. We can go through this in greater detail, but, and we intend to do that with the kitchen consultant, but I'm just showing the development that's all, I think, favorable and, that to the project. There's no change to the second floor plan at all. The only, that we did some studies for trying to make the multi-purpose, I mean, the conference room accessible, and it really messed up the access at the end of the building. One thing is coming through as a result of the change, studying the kitchen, is there's a little counter for coffee and that here. We're moving that over there so the billiard game room doesn't have that notch coming into it. So that'll be the only change that happens on the second floor. We haven't made that yet. This is just a picture of the backside of the building showing now that the change is the bathroom. There's the outdoor exercise area outside the gym. We've been discussing using that with the Conservation Commission as artificial turf. I know it can be a bad word, but for exercise, it's really great because it drains quickly. It's not muddy. The thought is that will be used by kids. It would be used by seniors having exercise programs. The landscape architects really would like to have that be an artificial, easily drained surface. And we're working through that with Concom successfully. I think the backside of the building, it actually looks quite nice. You'll see in the future, this roof here is the solar roof, not this roof. It's the nice thing about putting the solar roof on the gym is that it's well protected from the parking lot, so it's not really that visible. It's also really hidden that this is a remote site. If someone ever has a desire to throw a rock at a solar panel, it's easy to do it on this roof. It's not so easy to do it on that back roof, so we've targeted this area, both sides, for the solar collectors. Which brings me to the solar panels. We have solar panel as an ad alternate in the budget. It's a little bit more than we thought it would be. The projected cost for the panels, I'm sorry, is $400,000 with rounding. It's 100,000, I mean, it's a 1,000 kilowatt hour array. It would have a payback period of 26 years. I don't, those numbers are hard to read at the bottom, but the calculation, I sent this chart to Ari and Pat to just review conceptually before we pass it on to the town. As mentioned, the energy analysis couldn't be done until design development drawings were done. The payback couldn't be done until we had the cost estimates, and all this came together Monday, Tuesday of this week. So this is all fresh information, but I would say that if you, it's a tough call. The municipal light company rebate is likely not to be available for this project. So they've said, do not count on any rebates from RMLD for this project. So that would have been a potential $60,000 rebate, which would have brought this down to what the budget was originally, but we're carrying the full amount with no rebate for the project.
Excuse me, Joel.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, there's a hand raise from Karen Gately Herrick. Would you like her to just hold a comment until the end of the conversation or?
Yeah. We'll hold her comment for now.
The other, an alternate is more complicated. In schematic design, we identified a number of different mechanical systems. The extra cost for the hybrid VRF and the 4-pipe fan coil system range between $350,000 and over $1 million of cost. So I believe the vote at that time was to stay with the VRF system, which is an air-to-air heat pump system, which is used in a lot of municipal buildings and used in all our community centers for many reasons. And most of its flexibility of being able to go from heating to cooling in different rooms and complete flexibility at any time of the year. If during the outreach, going to town meeting vote and looking at the project, a lot of folks had said, do you want to look at geothermal as an option? And we said that we would, in part because the rumors were out there that the government was going to provide some rebates for geothermal. Why they're for geothermal and not for other sources is not known. But those concepts came to fruition, and that the recently passed bill in Congress includes a 30% rebate for the geothermal system. It's not the geothermal wellhead, it's the entire heating system. The heating system is $2 million. The geothermal is $1 million. So you get 30% of that combined cost, which is about $850,000 of rebate potential going to a geothermal system. Municipalities get that rebate. And it's not clear to me why it's for geothermal. I think solar is a better system for rebates, but the geothermal in this case does not really have a huge benefit. The air-to-air heat exchange is shown in the energy report, and Ari hasn't had a chance to look at it. It just was
Biting my tongue.
sent today. This is preliminary information. Even if it's 10 times this amount, the benefit of the photo of the geothermal versus the air-to-air, it isn't that significant. And if you do half the building and not the gym, you're at 8 wellheads. If you include the gym, you're at 16 wellheads, which means there's between 8 and a greater number of pumps that need to be maintained and periodically replaced. We look at these pumps as having a 7 to 10 year life cycle. So our conclusion is that we were excited that the rebate was offered in the bill, but from an initial pass, it doesn't look like it's beneficial. I wanted to get this out now so that Ari and Pat and the team that's going to look at this have a month and we can make this decision middle of August or later and get on with our.
So is this 8 wells or 16?
This is 16.
And they're open wells, if there's a pump in each of them, open loop wells?
They're site wells, if there's a pump at each well.
I think there would be closed loop.
Yeah, it's a
They're
closed loop.
loop. I'll put a response together, but I think there's a number of issues with this
Pardon me?
that we should address.
That's why it's been sent to you. But
Yeah, so it's even after I make all my comments that would alter this, it's probably still gonna be the same answer, that the payback is at least 10 years. But there's definitely some comments on this. It's almost, I mean, if you were to put this out to the engineering community, nobody would believe there's only a $800 savings on geo versus it's 20% more efficient than air source, right? So
Yeah,
it's-
our
it's hard to
engineers
believe.
don't find that historically, and they specialize in geothermal and with the high energy efficiency Mitsubishi units, which is the basis of design. They're finding that the gap is so close that you may find differently, so that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
just wanna put, I'm just trying to get the information out as soon as we get it, yeah.
So, couple of observations on the whole presentation. The budget we get too terribly excited about the cost savings that we saw in the most recent estimate. Turner Townsend Harry is gonna do an estimate. We're gonna reconcile it. It's an unreconciled estimate. The lion's share of that savings, almost $1 million, comes from dropping the design contingency from 10% to 5%, which is typical at this stage. But I would.
And the foundation.
And the foundation, but I think more of it's, those are the two things. The foundation's real. The other, we're just reducing contingency, and I would make an argument as we reconcile the estimates. I would make an argument because of the volatility of the market we're in today, that while normal course, normal procedure would be to take a 10% design contingency down to 5% at the end of DD, I would argue that we probably want to hover at 7.5, maybe it's 7. But because we are still in a volatile time period, and we really don't know what the outcomes are on a lot of these tariffs. You know, steel coming across, like you don't know until steel crosses the border on that day. And if the tariffs change tomorrow and the steel crosses the border tomorrow, that's when that's when, you know, that cost is sort of finalized. And we've got there's a tariff on copper. Copper's in everything, but then that got massaged quite a bit where there's all kinds of exclusions. So I don't know how strong that is, but it's just very volatile.
Yeah.
So I would caution against that. And then one thing to as we talk about any rebates, everyone should be aware that anything we do would have to be funded in full with our budget. And we would have to go get the rebate later. And so we would need to effectively pay for it, be able to pay for it. So if we were to come to the conclusion that, look, it's $850,000 in rebate, it's $1 million system, it's like getting a whole system almost free. It's like, it's almost a no-brainer. Ari has a different opinion on the savings, and if you take into account what he thinks the savings would be, it's like a no-brainer. But we'd have to go spend the $1 million for that system and then get that rebate, which would come much later. You just need to make sure we keep that in mind. That's all I had. Nancy, you had questions about Conscom and CPDC earlier. Were those answered by Joel?
Yeah, a little bit. I was at CBDC. I understand the role conservation plays, but maybe just like a little bit more about CBDC.
CPDC is gonna look at stormwater, how the rain comes off the site so that we don't flood Burbank Arena, that the water's contained. They look at the utilities coming in, they look at the traffic, so there's a traffic analysis. The traffic engineer will be at the hearing at the end of August. They're looking at signage. Through this process, we're gonna add a sign where Simmons Road and Range Road branch off that identifies left to pickleball, left to Burbank Arena, right to these things. And so some things have come up for those, and that's all part of the site plan review. They're also looking at setbacks and zoning and any dimensional requirement on the building.
Thank you.
One other question on that, you had mentioned that Concom wants the walking path to be pushed inside of the yellow line, inside of the buffer. Puts it pretty close to the other features on the site. Is that a concern? Like how close the path ends up being to the courts?
We'll have a drawing for it. I mean, the engineers and the landscape architects are working on it, but the advantage of the path is that there's 3 loops to a mile, so it's actually quite desirable is it's not one of these token little walking paths, it's a nice path. And the idea was it was gonna be an exercise loop, so it's closer to the facilities, but instead of 20 feet, it's gonna be 5 feet, so it's not.
I was more just wondering, like, is it an issue if people are playing pickleball and
No.
there's someone walking by?
There's a 8-foot
There's
fence
a
on the
fence,
back,
okay.
yeah, thank you.
What was their philosophy about?
Pardon me?
I thought the path was there to get people out into the wilderness, as it were.
That's what we thought too, but the
That's right.
Apparently not.
Apparently not. They just want to make it another like sidewalk, and then you can walk around town and.
well, it'll still be nice, it'll be on the edge, and then there's gonna be,
One side, is you're looking at a building, whereas if they were in the woods, you had some trees between the path and the building.
Yeah.
But when it was discussed before, with the boardwalks, Conservation Commission, the trail committee was going to build those boardwalks as part outside of the project. I think they decided against that, but there will be multiple, that's sort of in the cards for later, potentially for later, and there's some turnouts from the stone dust path, which enables sort of a better dividing line, like we're building this dashed line of paths to nowhere until they put the boardwalks in. So now we're gonna build a continuous path with, I think, 2 or 3 turnouts into the wetlands that could be future boardwalks to get into the wetlands. Is that a fair?
I think your assessment is right on. Yeah, I think I did the site walk with the Conservation Commission. It was a great walk and with the wetland scientist, and they identified 2 areas where they could build spurs. The project would fund the spurs, and then they would build, that would be like stone dust, and then they would build the Trails Committee boardwalk paths to access the wetlands, but that's a separate process. It's not under the budget for this project, and they have to go through all sorts of paperwork and everybody with the state because of the advance into the wetlands. The conservation had concerns that this path was too close to the wetlands, and they were uncomfortable with that, and they wanted to have a drawing to pull it back and see what that looks like. And so that is what Activitas is working on.
Path should be close to the wetlands, because that's the function of the path, to get people out into nature.
I hope you'll be at the Conservation
Yeah, well,
Commission
yeah,
and make your public comment.
It's a really good point. I mean, think about the location of this site on the edge of town, makes it not very attractive to drive all the way over there so that you can walk around a path that
Is next to a building.
is next to a building.
Could you hold the?
We don't disagree, John. Conservation originally was interested in the path as part of the mitigation conversation. And part of the concern with the walkthrough is the topography. It's not a flat area, it's up and down. There is side to side movement. The ratios are greater than 3:1, which is an ADA setting. So part of the path width and design, even though stone dust can be an accessible path. But it does, that topography with the left to right movement is a factor. And so they were looking at that as well. So the Conservation Commission still looking at that. It's, the public should go and advocate for that path. I would encourage that with the Conservation Commission, but their job is to protect the wetlands, and they feel that they are doing that by asking for this alternative design. It was a very cool, beautiful day in the nice, cool woods, and it was very hot outside of the woods. So I hear what you're saying. It was fantastic back there, except for the cars.
That path, you can see the path is very close to the wetlands. And really, what we were doing before was there were like 2 or 3, the path looked the same as it did. There were just 2 or 3 spots where it sort of cut into the wetlands.
Yeah.
And that was gonna be a boardwalk, right? Kinda.
Yeah.
You can put your pointer on where that was.
and then we had sort of extensions in so that you'd have cut pullouts with boardwalks and, a seating area at the end of it.
When I saw on the schematic design, when I saw us constructing boardwalks in wetlands, Yeah, I didn't think that was a great idea to be doing under this contract.
Yeah.
No.
It was never intended under this, under their contract.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was never a part of the, this
Yeah.
contract at all.
So,
Well, I think it was.
The Spurs were, not the boardwalk.
Okay,
Yeah, I was very clear, we couldn't afford it. But the stone dust path then became, well, we could do a stone dust path. And then, and now maybe it'll be a bit closer, a wellness path. And there could be, you know, eventually a little fitness thing that we put along the back spur on the backside of pickleball or something like that could be added at future time.
right.
There's a picture of the wetlands against the.
Yeah, maybe,
Yeah.
we could, yeah.
Picture of the.
We could produce an app so people.
Bird feeder, right?
Lemonade path.
Right.
All right, so,
actually, before we move on, I was gonna ask, I'm assuming Karen still has her hand up, but I'm gonna
Yes.
ask Karen, if she'd like to, say something.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. I just, especially if Joel needs to make an early exit. I joined in the perfect time. Sorry, I couldn't get there at 6. But I just wanted to, I appreciate you, the feedback on the whole solar. And I just want to say as an aside that Pat, I appreciate your comments about not ratcheting back the contingency too quickly. I think that is a genuine concern in this continuing volatile economy, in the global trade system. And I think that's a good idea. And then I also just wanted to say that when I think we were talking about the geothermal systems and we talked about a 10-year payback, and a 10-year payback in my mind on a 25-year, we might have been talking about solar. Anyway, but in general, when we're making these decisions, I think a 10-year payback on a 50-year building, if we're still assuming this is a 50-year building, is a go ahead. It's not that would not be a bad thing. Back to solar, which was my original question. I am seeing both price increases in the residential market. I saw one today, and I also am seeing 25-year lifespans, whereas before I was seeing 20-year lifespans. So that's interesting. But my specific question for Joel was, as liaison to RMLD and having had conversations with RMLD commissioners who want to continue to be engaged with both of our building projects and see the fact that now we have 2 major buildings within, stone's throw of each other as a serious opportunity for community solar, among other things. And I had a quick discussion with Pat about this. So question for Joel, how long ago did you hear that we, quote unquote, Reading shouldn't count on a rebate, and who did that come from? Because I don't know if things have changed since then, but that's certainly something I just want to follow up with because I'm hearing differently.
we confirmed it last week because we wanted to get it into the model to see whether the rebate would be available, and their comment was you should not count on any rebate for this project. That I think what they said, the rebate program is ending in 2026, and this project isn't probably going to hit that window and the funds may not be available. So their comment was, don't count on it. It's probably not going to be available.
So there could be, they have rebate programs and they also have a community solar program. So may I just ask who you got that feedback from?
I didn't have the conversation. Our sustainability person did that. I'd be happy to go back and try to push that because I think the solar is very viable on this project and it has a good benefit. It's also low maintenance. So it would be good to keep pursuing that if there's an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, quote unquote, it doesn't have to be a rebate. It can be a Reading Municipal Light Department investment joint venture. We can call it whatever we want, but I certainly, I'm just one person, but hearing them say we're not going to participate just isn't a good answer. So, but and it's a big organization. You got multi-levels and communication's always a challenge. So that's why I'm asking, just to, make sure everybody stays on the same page. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yep.
So turning back to those 2 alternates that we're not going to be taking votes or making hard decisions tonight. but, would like to hear people's thoughts just in general on like payback period. If you go back to the solar, Karen just said 10-year payback, but that was 26.
No, I think she's
26.
referring to that I made a comment that even if you on the geothermal, even if the numbers were what I expected them to be, it would still be, maybe it would be 10 years. I think that's what.
Yeah, I did see that 26 year and it was horrible. So I apologize for mixing systems there.
Okay.
I think the solar is a little bit different because the solar is actually, the payback is a long time, but it's still reducing the carbon footprint of the building significantly because it's reducing the amount of energy that you need to use on the building. So even though it takes a long time to pay it back, it basically pays itself back in the life cycle of the solar collectors, which is 25 years. So
The other thing to think about is that I'm assuming it's a simple payback, right? So you're just taking.
that's simple payback, yeah.
We would assume that the cost of electricity raises by 3% a year. We've all seen that in our bills, right? So you've got to look at, you
It's still
project
gonna
that
keep-
over the life of the system.
That's,
That's a lot more.
it's hard to do that. That can go more in detail. We should actually put the cost of the bond in that number probably then too, when that excuse,
Yeah, I mean, this is
borrowing
a lot
costs.
more work, but we should be looking at all these as life cycle costs, not simple paybacks. That would be the better way to look at the
yeah.
costs.
So I know I'm gonna just get to, we have I don't throw this at you on. CPDC asked us to get the signage in because they'd like to approve all the site signage and the building signage, or at least the locations, so that they don't have to have another hearing next spring or next summer on the signage. They can do this administratively through the planning board. So they've asked us to show them where the building signage is gonna go and what is it. And I have 4 different versions of it. The sign has always been right next to the front door. One option is we've sort of come to the conclusion that it would be Recal with Reading Center for Active Living below. Not we, but town staff, collective, the royal we. The Recal lettering is all caps because the signage that's going up by the arena and coming in is gonna be die cut in a steel sign, and you can only die cut capital letters. You can't do ambersands and lowercase e's and all that in that font. So the Recal logo has gotten to be that. And one option is this. Another option is to put it in the center. But then another idea came out of looking at this sign that I thought was sort of interesting, where would translate that idea to Recal, in that you could make Recal a bigger logo cut out of the vertical board and batten that's part of the entry, and then you'd have the name. So that's sort of maybe a more interesting graphic. And we don't have to have it all figured out, but we want to show planning board that there's a sign at the entry, there's a monument sign up at Simmons Turnoff, and then there's this building sign, and it's going to be something like this. And they will have a good sense and not be surprised about this when we have an administrative review for the font. Should that be black? Should that be silver? We can figure all that out later. So my point tonight was I thought PBC should weigh in on this because this is going in later this week to planning board and part of the decision that starts at the end of August.
So you're looking for a decision on the sign right now?
I know. I need a decision to go ahead with at least this location. It's a complicated problem and I didn't anticipate this coming up.
And the color of the tile with that.
That'd be lit up.
Ooh,
Pardon me?
Will that be, will be a,
like LEDs behind her or something?
You couldn't have it be lit.
I just meant
Yeah.
put a spot.
I think we thought that the lower signs would be backlit
Yeah.
and that would just be carved out of the lettering, that you don't want a huge, I thought it was a subtle way to get a big recount.
Yeah, it's different.
It's cool.
Yeah,
Why are we obsessed with retail? I mean, retail is something which started a few years ago, and people know about it. Well, 2% of the people in the town know about what retail means, the rest don't. Why don't we just call it Reading Community and Senior Centre? That's what
Call it
it is.
whatever you want. You just have to get on the committee that tells us what the name of the building is.
I mean, retail is, it's not a name that anybody is going to really understand in 20 years what it is, as they don't now. You ask people around town what retail is.
Mark?
I may have some thoughts. One of the things that would be great would be to have a very easy way to refer to it. So when you start thinking about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 words, it's not an easy way to refer to it at all. And so retail is kind of a nice way to just talk about it.
But it doesn't describe what it is.
Understood, and that's why you've got the description of kind of what's going on right now. But another thing to think about is.
Center for Active Living mean? You know, is it,
So-
it sounds like an old folks home to me, where, to be honest with you. You know, Center for Active Living, like you're doing exercise, it's not, it's a community center and a senior center. Why don't we just call it a community and senior center? You know,
from my perspective, the select board gave this committee a building called the Reading Center for Active Living. That was presented to town meeting as the Reading Center for Active Living and presenting to town voters as the Reading Center for Active Living. And I'm open to having possibly some committee explore this, but we've got a lot of hands raised. I wanna keep this reasonably.
Sure.
I
should.
was thinking without keeping the recap, because recap is actually something is being used with senior programming. So, and if you do a search across the country, you're gonna find other recaps out there. Because that's kind of like the new name for a senior center, but not everybody knows that new name yet. But I wonder, maybe not on the front of the building, maybe on the inside somewhere or over on that brick wall, you know, whatever. That maybe we could put now, and this would be longer, but serving seniors, veterans, children, teens, I don't know, come up with.
Love that.
Come up with maybe 3 or 4 or 5, no more than 5 words. And then that kind of gets to, you know, what does this building do? Well, it says it serves. And
Active living, whatever that is. Active
Lazy living, you do it when you drive that.
Active living, you do it retail.
Right, lazy living, you're at my house. Active living, you go, yeah, I think that's
I like that idea.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
I think, just as a point of history, back when this all began, when Gene Delios was here and started this work, is that the language senior center was no longer acceptable. This building is called the Pleasant Street Center for a reason. That's it. So when that work started with UMass, that's when Center for Active Living became part of the nomenclature and the culture of what this project is. And it's just carried through over time. But I really, and I have obviously no vote here, but I really love that suggestion about serving who we're serving. It also speaks to the belonging. Yes, ma'am.
Seniors first.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Seniors first.
Yes.
Or 60 plus, whatever you want to
Ready
do.
on the clock.
But see, everybody knows what seniors means. And so it speaks to the belonging and the welcoming that we always talk about in our, I got the wink from Doxer. So it's important. So I think you raise a really good point. You know, we did tell the community it's recal, that's been the language. And I think that the serving piece that Nancy brings up is really quite beautiful.
And going back into the history, a little bit too, when RECAP was formed, as Mark will attest, the Council on Aging, you know, kind of barged right in and said, you know, we're losing our building. And we want a place in this building. Because we do. So, if retail became a compromise between those people that found the word senior not very glamorous, and those people that wanted to use the word senior because that's what the seniors were giving up a building of independence, an entity that was theirs. And even though it does say Pleasant Street Center, and right underneath that, it says happening place for Reading seniors. So it does say that right underneath.
Like, I mean, so I would say, I think this is great, Joel.
Yeah.
You wanna present this to CPDC? If you get to a point where someone's asking you to commit 100% that we're done with this building, it's gonna look exactly like that. You can commit all you want, but there's a large possibility between now and time this building's done, that doesn't look exactly like that.
Yeah,
25 years of building public buildings.
Do you have a favorite?
I've built more buildings than you can count that are named New Elementary School. And when I'm at the ribbon cutting, it's the Stanley Elementary School, and Stanley is completely unknown to anyone involved with the job until that moment, so.
Yeah.
It would be better for me to show them something and change it than to just not show it.
I agree.
Exactly.
Sure.
And I think all of your thought process, I think is great. I think that's a great design.
I always thought it should be recal, AIL, so Nancy before me. That's recal almost in Linfield.
That's funny.
Well, I don't know if you've looked at the town's bylaws for signage, but they're very specific.
I know.
And so there's certain heights and what they're looking for really is just location and how big it is, and how it's going to be lit. So if you're gonna do any lighting, it would be behind those letters for
The little
some.
letters, yeah.
Yeah, you can't see through them, so just
Yeah.
when you go to CPDC, make sure you're really on top of it.
Thank you.
Bylaws,
Yeah, I care about
because
signs.
That's a really big part of what they're looking at.
Right, so I'm
They don't
sorry
care what
to
it says.
hijack the meeting with the sign, but I.
Yeah, one comment, going against my attempt to keep public comment at the beginning of the, you had something.
I do agree that I can understand Reading Center for active living. But I do feel right now, the way this building is named, and if you look under where it says Pleasant Street, it does say seniors on it. When a building is in the project of being voted, that's usually the name of the project, not necessarily the name of the finished building. I do have to agree with the strengthening here. A lot of seniors in town, 60 plus, they don't even know we have a senior center. So I definitely feel there should be some addition to Reading Center for Active Living Senior Center. Or put the veterans, or list something, but the name is A and B as we started this, an A and B building. The word senior has to be in there someplace.
Sorry, I know we're going to move on from this.
No, it's fine.
I'm gonna venture to guess that I might be one of the younger folks and residents in this room. I voted for the Reading Center for Active Living. Feel very strongly that if we change the name of the building, we're changing what we told the taxpayers this building was. And I also think that in the very first meeting, we agreed that it was not the job of our committee to decide what this project was called. I feel quite strongly for this. I would have voted differently if this building was named something. It's a center for everybody. We're designing it like that. And there are people in this community that would feel different about whether this building is for them, despite showing up on their taxes every year, if it's called something.
Well, I mean, I think the bylaws allow on the glass or even, I don't know about the side of the wall, but you could have writing on that, so you could figure out whatever writing you want to put along the way. This is just for CPDC to know where the sign's gonna be and how big it is and how it's gonna be lit. They could care less what it says, so from our perspective, it's just
Yeah.
voting to say. Yeah, I mean, we're just voting that this is where we want the sign.
I've built 8 of them. All the same name, New Elementary School.
Can
Mark,
I make a comment back to kind of where we were on the energy side?
yeah, I wanna go back to that too.
So one of the things, and as a Karen's still on also, and when I see a number like $400,000, I think about green communities money. Cause that's more in the range of what might be possible from them, I think. Maybe Karen has better insight into that, but I don't know what the community's decision is gonna be in terms of what project or projects we're gonna ask for. And I'm hoping to be in line for something substantial quickly, soon. And maybe this would fit. And I don't know if the schools have intention, I don't know if other projects have intention, but this sounds like a good.
So when he's joined communities rather, then August 21st, I'll come at 10 a.m. There'll be a party. It's not really a party, but I'll be there though. There is, we get a first grant and it's very narrow scope. And it is limited to existing HVAC systems or existing systems that you're bringing up to date. And so we have a project for that. It's in the school department. It's bringing school systems up to date. That's ready to go. That's the first piece and it is a very narrow scope. We haven't looked at the bigger stuff yet. So that, I love that. I don't disagree with you. So we will start to dig into that. If there's a green communities angle to it, I promise you, we'll start to study that. I can't promise you any money.
The community solar angle is also an interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the status is of originally for Killam, there was talk about RMLD funding an array, basically as an investment on the building. That they could potentially fund both arrays in the same project, you get an economy of scale there. I don't know if that $400,000 was a bid number or just sort of a market pulse number, because it seems, first gut, that's high. Like $1 per kW basis. So I wonder if between a little bit of friendly competition to get that cost down and then, willingness from because the code requires us to do solar ready, right? There isn't presumably not a huge cost difference in putting the solar in our project versus something coming in and bolting it on the roof later. And maybe that's what RMLD would be interested in. A little bit of that, but it's purely a layering cost.
I built a lot of buildings that they had solar on at the end and it's, chases through kitchens. It's not a lot of fun.
We'd have to put the racking and stuff in our project and the conduits and stuff, but for someone to put the panels on at the end is kind of a secondary process.
Yeah. So circling back, if you could starting with the solar, I'd like to get everyone's like thoughts and pulse on just in general cost and payback. When I see a 26-year payback for a 25-year-ish system, and I'm a big fan of solar. I have solar on my house. I'm expanding solar, in the process of doing that right now. But that, for me, that's like a struggle at that level. Point Ari, some of these numbers, we can do a more detailed analysis, but just wanted to get everyone's thoughts on that. Like where do we think the Mendoza line is? I mean, it's a 5-year payback. It's like obvious. It's a 100-year payback. That's obvious. And as we move those numbers closer, I don't know if anyone has an opinion for what, in their mind is like the number.
10 years.
10 years is John's number. That was my number. 8 years was the number on what I'm doing right now.
26 years is crazy. I mean, it's just we shouldn't even be wasting Joel's time. And I thought last meeting we said, don't worry about it. That's my recollection. No, we gotta get off. We gotta move forward.
We're going pretty fast, brother.
And we can't stop talking about geothermal, solar, and never making a decision. Solar it doesn't work for this project.
I think another side of that is I think solar is something we could take to a bid alternate, pretty easy. To your point, Ari, we could build the infrastructure, not very expensive. It's effectively a conduit chase from the electric room to the roof, right? And
So the little roof that the code requires you to put the conduit.
so you're like there anyway. We could, Joel's feeling a little uneasy, doesn't like, and I wouldn't wanna put an alternate out, and when we get to the point of a bid, you know, if we weren't serious about it, but we could take it, this is something, you know, we'll start with a laundry list of alternates that'll slim down, and ideally, we would get to a bid with no alternates. And, I think a few of us share the opinion, the simpler, the better, from a cost competitive standpoint, but putting like solar as an alternate, is something we could easily do. 26 years for me, I'm like, it feels like it's too much. Mark?
I would give you 10 to 15 years as the number, and the driver of that is getting some of the cost down.
Yep.
So appreciate that certain things with rebates may not be there. There will be new leadership at running Municipal Light. Don't know what they'll have in mind to do. The idea of green communities and see what else is out there.
Okay.
But go back to my old point is any rebate that comes from Reading Municipal Light is paid for by the taxpayers of Reading who pay their electric bills. So it's really just switching money from one group of residents to Rico. It's the same people. Rebates are.
But, well, let me ask you this, if Recal didn't get that rebate, would some private developer putting solar on their building get that rebate? And is the cost basis to the ratepayer
They
the
should
same no matter what?
All rebates are equally so. When a rebate comes from the very people who are paying the taxes, I mean, every time we pay our electric light bill, a certain portion of that goes to paying RMLD's rebate schemes. Let's do away with that.
So that's not, we're not on the board. We're not RMLD commissioners. I hear you. But I think important information for Joel jump in, if anyone disagrees, is you should be starting to take away the appetite of this committee is in the 10 to 15 year payback. You know, John might be at 10, Aaron might be at 15, Mark's at 10 to 15. So you know what you're dealing with as you're.
So we'll work on that.
So as you're going through things.
Yeah.
So that's the solar. I don't know if there's anyone has any thoughts on the geothermal, which is much more difficult to carry as an alternate to bid day and flip a switch. Something that we would be, you know, we can't really kick the can down the road on that like we can with solar. The biggest thing there for me becomes the potential tax credit. That's the bit of an unknown. I feel like that's like
It's not unknown at all. It's Congress passed DUD and it's currently. So it's very known, but it's still true that you have to buy it and then get a rebate. If you can't finance that rebate at the point of sale. I don't know if there's a way to finance just the geo separately, so you can basically pay off that debt immediately, but I'm not the finance professional for that. But there's no more uncertainty about whether that rebate is a real thing. That's
The geothermal.
the geothermal rebates there. And it could actually be more than 30%, depending on what we qualify for. 30% is the,
It's 30 to 50.
yeah. We probably won't meet it. I'm assuming it's not union labor in Reading, so we probably won't be prevailing wage, but
We have to
there's.
pay for.
everything would be.
So 40%. Like
Everything would be prevailing wage, yeah.
So I guess my general comment on this is that there's some questions about without having seen the engineering drawings or narratives about what the actual components are of the system, I do have some questions about open wells, closed wells. We shouldn't be building a system that has a pump for each well. That would be a bad idea. But the energy model that doesn't pass the sniff test to me for the delta to be that low between them, just knowing how that equipment operates. So I saw that energy model report. I'll provide some comments on that. I work a lot with Ed and Lilick who did that analysis. So, and I know from the report, I can tell what software they use, and I just have a lot of, it's not, I think it needs a little bit of work. So, but again, it's not going to show up with a 3-year payback. It's going to be in that double-digit number. And then we have to decide obviously quickly, because this is a big issue, but whether we go or stay the course.
Yeah. Well, the payback on the geothermal depends what you're using as a baseline. If you're talking a payback on the full amount, but you're gonna get 80% of it in a
Yeah, the delta is 300 grand on based on those numbers, right? So that's what we have to pay off, and that $800 annual is probably more like 10 grand potentially. Still, that's still 30 years. It's not,
Yeah.
it's not gonna work.
And when we did the Killen project, they did a life cycle analysis, cost analysis on all the different options that we were looking at. Do you, am I remembering that correctly?
Yes.
Is that something that we want to explore, like that level of analysis here?
That was, we were comparing basically 4 systems there. We were comparing full geothermal, hybrid geothermal, half geothermal, and no geothermal. Might have been 2 no geothermal options.
I think there were 2.
In that whole, we ended up with half geothermal, and that whole decision, like really. I'll say it, we had that discussion, we had all the engineers in the room, and we had the wrong people in the room. Cause it all comes down to between the MSBA and the IRA tax rebates, you're getting more than your initial cost back. So it's like the person you want in the room is a tax expert, kind of not really an engineering expert. Just tell me that this isn't gonna be a horrible situation, it's kind of a no-brainer. But here's a little different. Number one, we don't have the MSBA participating in additional incentives. So we're only getting a part of the cost back. That was my opinion of that. And we could, that's effectively what you're talking about, doing a more, instead of a simple cost analysis, doing a life cycle. Looking at.
Yeah, I mean, we said at the beginning of this project that it wasn't the right site for geothermal, so it's not the hill I'm gonna die on, like I figured this is not a huge difference, but it's almost one of those situations where like I'm reacting to the fact that I don't believe the analysis, and if I hadn't seen the analysis, we would probably all be home by now, so I don't.
You'll be home now?
I don't know, we don't need to spend a whole lot of time on it, but I think if we're gonna do the analysis, we should do it right.
What I'm trying to get to is what we need for any additional information, assuming we would make final decisions at a follow-up meeting. Which you would take a look at what.
Yeah, I'm
you've
just
gotten.
I just saw that report this morning, so.
Totally.
Reply and.
Apparently I did too.
Yeah. Well, I saw the geothermal thing as I was driving here. It's been out for 15 minutes, so we
Well, it's,
We'll have some
it all
time to
comes, I'm just trying to get.
yeah, I appreciate that. I'm just saying, I don't wanna like force out a response when I'll just read it again.
Very also that Joel is designing the building, not this committee. But he's got engineers on board who aren't able to keep. We should respect their opinions. If they're the ones that are responsible, if things go wrong, it's his fault. I think, we can give you input, so you've got to take it to the grain of salt. Your engineers are the ones which have got to really advise you, not us.
Agree, but he needs guidance from us, like he needs to know 26-year payback, we're not doing solar, and he needs that feedback.
He's got to.
All right, I'm ready to move on.
Mr. Chairman, Karen does have her hand up again.
Yeah, we'll
Just wanna let you know.
one more time with Karen.
Thank you, Jenna. I appreciate it. And thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think some comments were made about that payback period, not including the financing. And I have to assume it included the feedback, don't count on the rebate. Because just, that's inconceivable to me that payback would be so long. So I would strongly encourage us to load up that payback with realistic costs, financing, etc. But one of the things I really wanted to ask this committee is, so I got a call from a RMLD commissioner, the Killam School Building Committee, Sustainability Committee was being discontinued and they were uninvited. How you cannot ask them to partner and help you provide data for this without having them have a seat at the table. What is the appetite to get them back to the table? To be part of this?
So, this is not the Killam School Building Committee. We welcome feedback. I've said this before, I'll say it again, we welcome feedback from anyone, any resident of the town, any town staff member. All feedback will be considered, not all feedback will be implemented. I welcome any feedback from RMLD. I had a conversation with someone, from RMLD whose name is escaping me after one of the community forums, specifically about the generator and, you know, absolutely open to any suggestions they have. And I mean, I've never heard from them, so they are more than welcome to provide feedback and suggestions to us. As far as being uninvited to Killam working group meeting, this isn't the Killam School Building Committee. So
So I bring that up because I got a call from a commissioner.
Okay.
But again, it's, where these projects are moving in lockstep and they're literally right next to each other. So, I'm aware we're not talking about Killam tonight. So, but I think it's really hard to get buy-in and participation. So I appreciate that feedback, Pat, what I'm hearing, I think, is they would be welcome if they want to come and, because if you're making decisions based on like one random answer, like don't count on us, I'm just like, wow, that is not the message I'm getting. And it's a communication problem more than anything else. And I hate to shut down at this stage of the project.
Okay.
Based on that. So I appreciate.
Okay, thank you.
But on the side, the test borehole for Killam geothermal was finished today.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Fantastic. I'm gonna skip the myriad of questions I have about that. For everyone's benefit. Design update.
Hold on.
Thank you. Great work. Your team is doing a fantastic job. Processing, doing a lot of work. Move on to the next item, which is the open design comments from Council on Aging. We talked a little bit at the last meeting, basically about design development, where things were, what's incorporated, what wasn't. So what Mark and I, when I say Mark and I mostly mean Mark, did with the help of several other people, was to take the comments, what Council on Aging gave us as sort of the full universe of these open design issues that they felt were still open. We went through, kind of created a spreadsheet that's color coded green and red. Some stuff's in, some stuff isn't, along the lines of all feedback's welcome, all feedback's considered, not all feedback is implemented. And this is basically, I believe that just everything in here, again, is consistent with feasibility design that was done, consistent with schematic design, what was presented to town meeting, what was presented to the town to vote on, and it's consistent with what Joel is currently designing too. So just want to give, Nancy or anyone else, opportunity to comment on that and have a discussion if needed.
Would you like me to share the document?
Yeah, if you can put it up there, that'd be great.
The document that Jim is going to put up there is the document that the Council on Aging completed at the end or during the design review process. And our concern was that we didn't know if it had gone fully through the process. We didn't know where some of these things stood and if they were accepted or not accepted. So we pulled them out from the total package. Happily submitted it. There were actually only 27
issues that we had. And when I say issues, on a scale of 1 to 5, it was maybe a 5 or under, there might have been a couple 7 or 8, but it was pretty low key. And when I got it back from Pat, I basically, what I saw was, I basically agreed with all of this, everything that was on here. Some of these decisions had been made, but they weren't official in any way. I didn't see a check sheet or a form or a, you know, so this was really helpful for us, so the Council on Aging, to know what would be included and what wouldn't be included. So I really appreciate you doing that. And like I said, we basically after we looked at your color coded issues, and I didn't have a green colored pencil, so I had to use a blue. So, but there were just 8 issues that we needed either clarification or we needed some more information for. And I don't know if we want to go over those 8 issues here, or that's for another time, if it's really worth it. What I, again, had put together for you two was a very condensed version with just our 8 issues and saying, this is the question. Did you need this and this? Because it was just unclear from what was in the right-hand column. Exactly what you were agreeing to or not agreeing to. And there were only 3 of those. And then the other 5 were related, well, actually it was 4 because I had a duplicate. The other 4 were related to the kitchen, and the kitchen is currently is under review. So those decisions, and basically that's what was written, you know, currently under review. Will assess or something like that. So we really just had, again, 3 items that were on our list, and we weren't certain either about what was written or what, if it was written but missing something else. So I can quickly walk through those 3. Okay.
So just
Well,
the
the
3
other 4 are kitchen issues.
Right.
And there's a kitchen
It's ongoing.
group that's
Kitchen.
meeting
Yeah.
and they're going to be doing something, so. I mean, I can quickly go through those 8 too.
Let's do 3.
Yeah.
One was, we had added an item called computer space. Because in the current building, there is a computer room there, and you know, it kind of webs and flows or tides, and what's the expression? Ebb and flows on how much it's used. But there are some people out there that still use the old desktop. So that's what they come in and that's what they know. So we wanted a space where there could maybe be a couple desktops and maybe a few laptops. And your answer was a space for a computer will be accommodated. So that was just, you know, did you mean 1 computer, 2 computers, 3 computers?
I can kind of touch on that,
Yeah,
if you
sure.
don't mind. I think when we had met in the design group, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, we agreed to maybe that station that you walk in the room and then there's a station all the way to the back. And there would be 2 computer stations there, whether they were laptops or desktops. I
Yeah.
think we were all kind of chatting about as a group, and there'd be a printer. So that was
What
the makerspace?
in the makerspace, yeah.
The maker, that's exactly perfect.
So we were thinking
Answers our
2.
question.
Yeah. That was a good catch.
The other one was, sound. We just wanted to make sure that what was included, it was, hiring an acoustic consultant. And we just wanted to make sure, that the consultant not only was considering, you know, the acoustics of the room, but also looking at what someone who might need some auditory help, like I know this room was, wired for, compatibility with hearing aids. And we just wanted to make sure that was included in that section. If it wasn't included in that section, that it's somewhere built in.
Well, we have two. There's a technology consultant that's doing the hearing assist for all the rooms, and we're doing the loop system in the main multi-purpose room, so you can key it to your specific hearing aid. The other rooms will have hearing assist that have different, simpler systems. So all the audio, visual and sound systems are all being designed. That's separate from the acoustical technician who's doing soundproofing between the rooms upstairs and the rooms downstairs, but both of those are covered. We've had a long meeting with staff on the first one, the hearing assist and all that. We incorporated the other comments into the drawings. What, we can have a presentation of that, if you want.
And you have consultants,
Ascentec.
two separate
Two
consultants,
separate consultants.
and I assume they have, experience in this type of building,
Oh, yeah.
significant.
Good. And then the third one was floor. What floor is in what rooms is confusing. So, and you do have a description here. We still got confused. And so then I kind of wrote it out. So one of the things that we were concerned about when we looked at the different floors and was what exactly was gonna happen in that room. So the floor that has the material that you can't put furniture on really restricts what can be done in that room. And so we really wanted to double check and make sure that, because there's only the 4 large rooms, so we want to make sure, we wanted to see where could we put a table. So can we, you know, if there's no one doing exercise, but you've got a puzzle group and they want to work in there, would we be able to set it, would a table be able to be set up and chairs brought in? So we got confused, and that we just wanted to be clear about the floors being open.
You can do anything that you want, so we can still change them. Right now, the flex room has that floor that you can put a table on and you can do low impact dancing or exercise. So that's why it's a cushioned, but it's a vinyl floor that's soft. And that's allows that, just what you're saying, that flexibility. The exercise room that's for dance has a cushioned floor, so that's a wood floor that's sprung, so it's very soft and absorbent. It's a real wood dance floor.
Is that like a dance floor that you would find in a ballet studio?
Yeah.
Or and so our question there was, I mean, I suppose we could start offering ballet and tap dancing, but do we really need that kind of floor for the kind of dancing that we do? So
We can do what Mark has in there too, which is putting the wood floor on a sponge base, a rubber base. We still would prefer, most people prefer that room to have a wood floor in it as opposed to vinyl. Because if you're gonna do any dancing, it's smoother and there's no resistance to it.
Are you talking mainly about those 4 rooms?
Yes.
Joel, could you have someone in your office send us
Yep.
the 4 rooms let's use the room name and room number that is on the plans. Cause I get confused
So
between
do I.
exercise and just give us what is currently in the budget on those, currently in the estimate, currently in the design for the flooring in those floor rooms. And possibly even like a link to
Yep.
to the product and the products, it's a public, when we get to that point, it's a public bid, so they have to. There's gonna be 3 different manufacturers, so it might not necessarily be this manufacturer, but that's the type of floor. And some of this does get back to, John's commentary earlier of, we wanna provide feedback, but we also wanna rely on our designer who's, we don't wanna tell him to change what he's doing too much because, I know as a contractor that builds a lot of buildings, every single tradesman on every job that I've ever encountered is miraculously smarter than every architect.
Every building,
And it's, so let's be careful about that because we always think that we want to rely on our designer because they've designed a lot of these.
And that's why we asked the question.
100%.
because, yeah, we
100%.
we were confused.
Feedback
And we
is
wanna
great.
make sure that we can maximize the space because there's really only those 4 rooms, unless you could do, I don't know, the gym is, can you do exercises in the gym
Yeah.
all those things, so where can the floor exercises take place, and can they take place in all the rooms? Can all the rooms support furniture, so we have flexibility? And
Is there any room or flooring type that you would say cannot have furniture?
Well, we don't like to put furniture on the wood floors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, so otherwise it's, you could put furniture anywhere.
Anyway,
Okay.
you could put like little rubber wheels.
you can.
Yeah,
And
so, okay.
So when I figure
I had one wedding, really,
Sorry.
just something really quick.
Yeah, go.
Taking more time resisting than it'll take me to say it. There's something we realized is that in rooms that you might think of, it's just dance. There are always a couple of people that do hold on to a piece of furniture for balance or something, and it kind of doesn't get noticed, because like this woman line dancing, that's her corner, and that's her chair, and you kind of don't think about it, but well, with older people, things like that, it might only be 1 or 2 pieces of furniture, but that's where I got concerned about the things that said, not furniture in this room, and it's like, well, that's gonna leave some people out, so.
But you could put
Thank you.
chairs in there, right, for like chair
But
yoga?
chairs, if you're not moving, I mean, the problem is sliding and then having people come in street shoes and
Yeah.
they have gum on their feet,
Yeah, we
or
just wanted-
stones or whatever, and,
We just wanted to be sure, that's all.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
but.
and those were the 3.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
excellent, thank you. So moving on to other updates. Operational plan. Jenna, you're gonna give us a quick update?
Sure, so we did have a good conversation at the Council on Aging meeting about the operational plan. Staff has just started to digest it as a whole entire team, because before there was only Chris, myself, Jim, and Will working on the plan internally. But then we had an opportunity to share it with the rest of our team at large, about a month ago in our first community services team meeting, for recal specifics. So we'll be meeting again on Monday to discuss the plan further, and we hope to come to the Council on Aging meeting and to the Recreation Committee meeting with a short presentation on the approach that we'll have in laying out the plan to everyone and getting feedback. So that's about it on my end. Jane, do you have anything to add to that?
Yep, we're working with 2 volunteers, John Sasso and Emily Sisson, who John has background in the recalc project, and Emily has background in finance committee and recreation committee. So there's some voices, they put their hands up and stepped forward to help with just this piece. With the understanding that there's sort of this third-party assist, because everybody's doing a big lift, right? Council on Aging, everybody's doing a big lift, staff's got a really big lift. And so we're working with them. They're looking through it, they're thinking about things, and they will come with us to council on aging meetings and recreation meetings and we're gonna present it to the boards in pieces. So like, okay, here's like policies we already have. What do we think about these? And then, hold on a second. And then here's a piece we want you to talk about. Take the thing. We'll have a little conversation about it at the meeting. We don't want to hijack any meetings. Think about it, come back with questions. We'll incorporate that. And just as, you know, Pat's been saying, like, all feedback is welcome. Some will be incorporated, some may not be incorporated, but it's a discussion, it's a conversation, it's nothing set in stone. We have runway to work with because the operational decisions that were being made for design, that's been talked about all along, but there's a lot of pieces. I mean, it's like snow removal. It's conservation has something to say. CPDC is gonna have something to say about all of these pieces being incorporated. So we're working on that, and, you know, we'll bring the relevant pieces to all of you, and can, you know, all in the whole body together as well. So Nancy, please.
I was just wondering, how John Sasso and
Yep.
Emily,
Emily Sisson, yes.
how, so they were chosen to work with the town
Staff.
on the operations.
John reached out.
John put his hand up and said, I have some ideas on this, and
Yeah, but,
it's okay.
yeah.
He's great to work with, and we have,
work with them.
yeah, I understand. And he's got a lot of experience and professional experience that he's bringing to the table that's helpful to staff. And the operations plan is a staff-driven plan. It's under the control of the town manager. And we asked Emily Sisson if she would be sort of a voice of recreation. So it's not the recreation committee, it's not the people that are appointed to those committees now. You're gonna give us the feedback from council on aging. Recreation committee is going to be a whole body, and they're gonna give us their feedback. And we're gonna, this is a working team of, you know, we're moving and trying to, you know, write those pieces, edit, bring them to you, and get that done, and that work product done. Does that make sense? So that's how that. Thank you.
So you'll be coming to our next meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
August.
August.
Yeah, we'll be there with probably some existing policies that already exist that will carry forward. And then a draft outline to start talking. Make sense? Okay. We're gonna move. That's gonna be great.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you, John. So moving on to financial update. Sharon's gonna give us a quick financial update.
Yes, thank you. So last night, the select board, they did an internal borrowing approval for us. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We did 3 internal borrowings yesterday with the select board, one for Killam, one for Recal, and one for Birch Meadow Phase 2. And the internal borrowing is simply borrowing from our reserves to keep the projects moving until January, where we intend to do our first tranche of borrowing. There were several reasons for that decision, and one of them is that borrowing is very expensive, and we were trying to line up all the projects we have to borrow for all at once. So January worked out to be a good timeline. Also, doing so, we avoid a principal and interest payment in fiscal 26, which means that our residents will not see any impact from the debt exclusions on their tax bill in fiscal 26. So that was helpful as well. And doing that also, we do 5% of our budget debt and capital. Moving those interest payments out a year made it so that we could do a little bit more capital in fiscal 26. So that was helpful. So January is the date we're going to do our first tranche of borrowing, and we're going to be borrowing for Killam, Recal, Birch Meadow Phase 2, the Fieldhouse floor, and pickleball. So there's a lot of projects we're trying to line up, and I certainly want to minimize the cost of that issuance, and so that's the date we've picked, a date in January to do that issuance. And unless you have any questions, that's all I have for you.
Thank you. You're gonna be pretty busy for the next 6 months.
For sure, for sure.
No slow moments for finance. Yeah.
Thank you. One other quick item under finance, think we talked about it at the last meeting, but we wanted to create probably a 3-person's working group for financial and change orders to kind of review things ahead of the building committee meetings. So as we come into it, we can have a working group that's looking at, particularly when we get involved, when we get a contractor on board and we have change orders and things. They have a chance to review things maybe in a little more depth, meet and recommend to the committee when we're approving these things. And if we want to establish that committee now, or just put the bug in everyone's ear for maybe next meeting. If you have any thoughts on that, Nancy, I know we talked about it a little.
No, I think it's a great.
Do you think?
Be good to get ahead of
I don't know if there's any volunteers
Yeah, are
whose
you
first
looking- are
name
you
does not
looking at
run.
me?
No, I'm not. I'm looking at you to volunteer someone. Kirk actually volunteered.
You would be great.
And I think three people probably makes sense.
Yeah.
Mike who's raising his hand, that's perfect. Maybe one more whose first name does not rhyme with Nancy or Hat. Maybe someone whose first name rhymes with
Ray.
egg. You must have a speaker off. Greg, would you like to volunteer for that committee? Working group?
I guess not.
I mean, we'll be part of it as well.
Yeah.
We discuss it next.
Yeah, we'll discuss it. We'll finalize that, but we got Kirk and Mike on the hook.
We need short straws, you know.
Okay. The last thing under other updates is the drawing review that we talked about earlier. Coming out on the 16th. And I thought, and you know, interested in feedback from Mark and Joel on what other committees do. But again, just reiterating that at this point, it's more of a technical review. We're not reviewing like, hey, should the gym move over here, but kind of a technical detail review. And I had a thought about dividing up the drawings into categories and specific members doing a review. So I'll just go right at it. I was gonna ask if Ari could review the MEPs, John could review the structurals, Nancy could review the architecturals, Mike could review the civils, and I would review the specs. That works for everyone.
I might wanna take a peek at the envelope details as well.
Sure.
The rest of the.
Yeah.
But we should all have access to the
Oh.
program.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can, I guess, I would put it as open to, you can review whatever you'd like, I guess. But if sometimes it's helpful, if I know Ari's gonna look at the MEPs, I can look at it, but I also know that you're gonna look at that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that works for everybody. We can move on.
Are we,
It's,
for SD, we did a Bluebeam session, I know that didn't
Yes.
work for everybody, but I thought that worked really well.
yeah, we're gonna do the same thing. We set up a Bluebeam.
Sure, we set up Bluebeam and a Google Drive for
Or
those who
Studio.
don't have Bluebeam.
Yeah,
So we
set
can
up-
get them out there electronically on the cloud, the entire package.
So Bluebeam
Couple of
Studio,
ways.
yeah, Bluebeam Studio for comments, and then they generate a worksheet based on the comments, so you'll have them all written down for what the comments that you make, so.
You don't have
It's easier for everybody to work on it to the individual.
Everyone loved it except John.
Yeah. I'm a Microsoft freak, so I don't do any.
You'll be fine.
Send
You'll be fine. You'll do your thing.
Just send us your
You'll be
comments, we'll put it in the worksheet and we'll go from there. All right.
fine. Okay, all right. If everyone's good with that, we can move on to next meeting. And if we think we need /want to have a meeting in August, as opposed to our next meeting would be September 3rd, which is the Wednesday after Labor Day. We split the difference, it would be Wednesday, August 20th.
No, conservation.
I think all of them last week or something.
Oh,
it's on a schedule there.
would we want it, on it for the 17th, because that's the due date for all of the design?
I don't think, I don't think we need to work around that date because the 17th to the 20th. We won't have had enough time for everyone to necessarily review the documents, so it wouldn't be, we would be. Anything that we want to talk about as a result of that would be the September 3rd meeting. So I don't think those two would be tied together, and I know everyone, it's the summer, a lot of vacations, et cetera, et cetera. We were trying to slim down the agenda and just try and hit some of the topics that we think we absolutely need to.
Could the interim meetings be virtual only?
Yeah.
So the monthly ones can be in person, but the interim ones can be just virtually, so it'll be easier.
I do.
My question is to Joel, what is needed before September for decisions? That would be helpful to meet earlier, that would be the reason for the meeting.
The next thing that we were planning to do is, and it wasn't really for this committee, but was to have an interior finishes meeting with staff and let the COA know what the interior finishes were for each room. That's really the next big step.
So maybe there isn't any need for us to get together earlier than that, if,
Yeah, the only other thing would be pre-qualification.
right, that would be the one.
If we feel like we could come to the September 3rd meeting and at that meeting establish the pre-qualification committee. And probably simultaneously, we would have, we'd have the RFQ. We would have to, I feel like we need to finalize the RFQ or at least empower a
I want to know
committee.
who's writing the RFQ.
It's a standard, TCAM like state form that we'll
Okay.
draft and we'll get it to you and we'll go have a couple back and forth.
Yeah.
But I think the majority should be done before September's meeting.
I agree.
And brings us September's meeting saying this is where we are. If there's any holes in it, we can discuss it, but it needs to get out on the street sooner or later.
Yeah, we would need town council to review that.
Right,
I assume.
right.
Yeah, so that gives us 3 weeks. So that's a very compressed time. Considering all the other things.
And I will be out the week of the 18th to the 22nd, moving my daughter to Indiana University.
I will be out the
Congratulations.
first week in September, but I'll come.
I'm looking forward to it. But so we won't be around, so bother these two.
Nancy Z?
So does the design piece of it though go to a cost estimator? Shortly after the 17th, it's on the calendar.
So the second cost estimate is gonna be based on the same set of documents that this cost estimate was done on. Because we want them to do a cost estimate on the same documents. The lag in the second cost estimate was just an availability issue with their cost estimators. There was a little bit of a cross communication on what was coming out when, but they're gonna be estimating the pricing set that's already created. So those two things are unrelated.
The pricing set you need for the design?
The set that came out on the 17th of July was the pricing set. The estimator for Joel's group has done their estimate, talked about the numbers tonight. Our group, we had a conflict with the availability. We're gonna be doing it probably this coming week. We're gonna have a reconciliation of last week of August, probably the 27th or 28th. Then we're gonna come with a reconciliation to the meeting on the 3rd. That is the estimate of the design development. So any other design issues that happen after that would have to be estimated in the construction documents. So design is should be pretty much done at that point.
Yeah. So the set that comes out in the middle of August that we're gonna review is a little further along. But as far as further along, the multi-purpose room is gonna be the same size room. It's gonna be the same room, but the further along drawings might have specific details about the wall type. So when I say it's further along, it's not like there are more changes, it's more detail.
Right.
And that's from this point forward, that's what the design team is gonna be doing, is adding more detail. Things may change because sometimes when you add detail, you realize that something doesn't work. when you coordinate structure with mechanicals, with architectural, sometimes you realize that we have to put a duct chase here and we need space for it.
But it's more building,
Yeah.
It's a technical
so it's
review.
not furnishing.
No,
It's a technical review.
it's not
And
furnishing.
not how a room would be used.
And you saw the evolution of the kitchen tonight. The kitchen evolution is different than the set that came out on the 17th. That'll be a non-conform set to take a look at, but there's things like that that are gonna evolve as you go along, so. It's a technical review that, and as Ari said, it's, do you have your continuous vapor barrier on the outside? Do you have enough insulation? How's your roofing insulation? How's the equipment working? Things like that. How's the lighting? How's the architectural? You know, it's not gonna be changing spaces anymore and moving things around. That's done. This is gonna be a technical review of that set.
Is there a change narrative that describes the difference between the set that came out July 17th versus the next set? I guess the reason for my question, right, is that if we're making technical comments that may have an impact on cost, it might be good to know whether the thing that we're commenting on was in the cost estimate or it's new to the set. It's a little weird to be like making a technical review on a set that's not the set that was
No,
in the
that's the
estimate. So I just wanna
intent
make sure.
was, we thought there were gonna be a lot of changes because of the cost. And that we'd have to make
Right.
value engineering, but we're not making any technical changes, so
Yeah.
anybody should just assume that it's the same set of drawings.
Just.
The reason that we had this called conform is that what is happening on every other job we have is we have to take this floor out and change it to that, and we have to do this. We have thousands of changes to get it into the budget, and it takes a month to do it. But we're not really in that spot here, we're in a good spot. So it's not gonna be a different set of drawings.
I think when reviewing these drawings, I think we should assume that what we're looking at is in the estimate.
Why didn't we just review why did we review two sets? I'm just a little confused, like we could have been already reviewing a set of documents that was on the street 3 weeks ago. There's not a lot of changes.
Well, it wasn't estimated yet. So you wouldn't, if there was value engineering done, if the price came back higher. So.
It just kind of,
It
it
is
is what it is, kind of happens
We've
when.
been- we've wasted a month of being able to see the drawing.
Well, you need the estimate to see what the changes should have been made. And we found that they didn't need to be. So.
It's a valid point, Ari. I think if sitting there today, if I could have a do-over, we probably would have reviewed that. But,
It's a week more, we'll get the set. and then-
yeah, well. Okay, so we'll go to September 3rd for the next meeting. All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? Nancy Toomey,
Yes.
Greg Stepler,
Yes.
John Coot,
Yes.
Mark Doxer,
Yes.
Nancy Zinlat,
Okay.
Pat Tompkins, yes. Motion passes. Thank you all.
Thank you.